Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto Naruto Next Generation discussion on the Fallout from Boruto Chapter 75. And today, I want to talk to you guys about the big elf in the room that now seems like we have right now, which is we appear to be headed towards a collision course of Boruto versus Kawaki to end off Boruto Part 1. And I think that there have been enough seeds planted for this, and it's time to rip the band-aid off right now and see what happens next and discuss everything. So in today's video, we're going to look at the impact that this has on the fight narratively, what signs we actually have for this, and why this may or may not be the best thing for the manga moving forward right now. While fans have rightfully been focused on Kawaki versus Sage Mode Mitsuki and the fact that Sarada appears to be in the battlefield's background ready to offer any type of support, let's be real here for a second. We all know that when the time comes, Kawaki's just gonna flat out wash both of them unless we learn that there is a major off-screen power-up for both of the characters. And even though this is a battle shonen and we've seen worse in terms of random power-ups that come out of nowhere, anything beyond them keeping up with Karma Stage 1 is gonna feel like a tough pill to swallow. However, that brings us to Boruto versus Kawaki, whereas Sarada and Mitsuki losing to Kawaki gives both the incentive to train harder, since Otsutsuki level power will now have a face burned into their minds. Kawaki, their former teammate, Boruto on the other hand, has a real shot to stand on his own against Kawaki, despite Kawaki being the strongest person in the village right now, something that Shikamaru confirmed in earlier chapters, and Naruto didn't dispute it when Shikamaru made that claim. We saw what happened when Momoshiki was in control of Boruto. Kawaki outright won the battle, and Momoshiki draws out more of that power that Boruto can't. But where things get really interesting with Boruto is that his ninjutsu training of his, it can really come in handy. While we've seen Momoshiki take the compression Rasengan and convert it into the Rasendan, which gets fired off like a bullet, Boruto using more than ninja arts while in Karma might be something that makes this fight a little bit more interesting for round 2, especially since their first fight felt like more of a teaser akin to the Naruto and Sasuke on the rooftop scuffle in part 1 of the series. However, if we go back over the last 18 chapters or so, you can see where the seeds have been planted in the story for this clash among brothers, this clash of Naruto's two sons, one born by birth and the other one just a cyborg. The most obvious thing that we've seen in recent chapters is the fact that ever since Boruto's been brought back to life via Karma, Kawaki has been noticeably different as a result. When he got told that Boruto was still alive, it wasn't a look of relief that we saw from Kawaki, but for a moment, with how fast his dojutsu in his eye generated one of those triangles, it became clear Kawaki wasn't above violence. But then everything with Code versus Delta and then Ada showing up in the village threw everything out of sync. Then when Kawaki and Boruto were in the Hokage office together, Kawaki was one who noticed that Momoshiki had manifested outside of Boruto, whereas nobody else in the room had even noticed. And since then, Kawaki has yet to address the situation, something that narratively I don't think was done by mistake. That's too big of a red meat to just leave out there. It's obvious foreshadowing. Now we have Momoshiki sharing the thoughts with Boruto, openly communicating with them, and Momoshiki stating he wants to keep Boruto speaking with him a secret from Kawaki, which is another line of foreshadowing that Kawaki is going to inevitably figure out what's going on with Boruto. When Boruto was looking into the future, the one person who noticed that Boruto was acting strange was Ada. While we've seen in the past that she can't see those specific interactions between Boruto and Momoshiki, we do know that she's sharp enough to put pieces together despite only having limited intel. The Momoshiki and Boruto connection is going to be the fuse that eventually sparks the fire that we know as Kawaki. But the only thing missing is what serves as the lighter that sparks that fire. So far in the series, we've seen the small gradual build up in the signs. The two were drifting towards different ends of the spectrum. They've been there all along. Some of the first signs that we saw were when Kawaki suggested to Boruto that they implant someone else with Boruto's Karma Seal to save his soul, since there was no way to stop Momoshiki from coming back, since Amato's drugs were only a short-term solution. Boruto, due to being raised properly, struggled with that line of thinking to subject someone else to the fate that he had, and Kawaki took it a step further by saying they should use Code as a vessel for Boruto. Kawaki pushed back against Boruto when Boruto revealed that he was taking Amato's Byakugan drugs, and later on when they had their sparring match, Kawaki clearly deviated away from the way of the ninja, which is to grow stronger through both combat training and mental training through meditation and studying. The urges that Kawaki had to protect Naruto, they grew to the point where they clashed again when Kawaki left the village, with Kawaki not trusting in others, not trusting in teamwork, and trying to take on the burden himself, which ultimately led to Boruto going to his rescue and giving up control to Momoshiki, and Momoshiki then went on to go on his warpath that almost certainly, potentially, could have actually killed Naruto until Momoshiki was actually killed by Kawaki. Those two over the last couple of years have clashed more and more and more often, from everything from ideals to course of action to physical altercations than they did in any of the time prior to this, and each time things have either escalated or they stayed at a steady temperature where ego and pride mixed with both of their stubborn natures led to some very passionate disagreements and decisions. If we get to a point where Kawaki potentially views Boruto as being a danger to Naruto, they're going to clash, and Kawaki might get the fatal blow or the near fatal blow on Boruto this time, which sets off the giant manhunt for Kawaki that we see in Boruto's vision for the future. It's not the craziest thing to expect either. Look at what we know. Kawaki isn't above killing someone if he views them as being a threat to Naruto. He's about as protective as Naruto as some fans are overdosing on copium, trying to go through logical loopholes explaining ways that War Arc Naruto and Sasuke could have defeated Ishiki, despite the fact that Ishiki punches them and their whole heads explode before the full fist even connects with their face. If Kawaki was willing to kill Boruto because he viewed Boruto as a threat before, there's a strong chance he undergoes a similar action this time around as well. Is Boruto sharing thoughts with Momoshiki, who is now manifesting outside of Boruto's body whenever and however he wants to right now? Is that any worse than the threat that Momoshiki being in control of Boruto's body was? Kawaki very well could view it that way. Even if he's wrong, he could view it that way. Madness makes people do crazy things, because if Momoshiki is manifesting and is now sharing thoughts with Boruto, sharing his brain basically, and communicating with them, is a sign that Boruto has been changed in more ways than one since being revived from death by the Karma Seal. He's an unknown factor to someone like Kawaki, who rightfully is naturally suspicious of all things karma, especially when you factor in his upbringing. That being said, while this would be something that works if the narrative reason for this clash is done correctly, I personally am 50-50 on the idea of them clashing yet again so soon. The framework is there, but I personally need to see more in terms of what makes Kawaki turn his blades to Boruto. We just had them fight a couple of volumes ago, and the stakes for that were as high as one could ever expect. Either Kawaki stops Momoshiki, or Momoshiki goes on a warpath and kills everyone, which he would have done since Naruto was mentally nerfed by the idea of fighting his son. He basically pulled a Fugaku Uchiha. He basically pulled a Minato, where Fugaku said he refused to enter into a death match with his son. Naruto wouldn't throw a Rasengan to Boruto's face, even if Momoshiki was in control. How he pulled a Minato is the same way that Minato went from a beast during the 4th Great Ninja War to he saw that it was Obito beneath the mask, and Minato was mentally nerfed and was nowhere near the ferocious fighter that he was before that. Kawaki snapping at Boruto because he thinks there's a possibility, or because he thinks that Boruto's losing ground to Momoshiki, hence Momoshiki is manifesting more. I'm not too sure about either one of those, to be honest with you. While I think this can work for fans, personally, I don't feel like we're there just yet in terms of their dynamic being split enough to justify any type of a clash, though I could be in the minority with this. Some of you guys really seem excited about the idea of Boruto versus Kawaki part 1000. That being said, I'm curious to know you guys' thoughts on this. How do you feel about the potential Boruto versus Kawaki fight coming into play? And 1 to 10, what degree of difficulty does the winner have? While you think that over, click here to watch the episode review for Boruto's episode that came out earlier this morning, or click here to watch the Kryptonian Saiyan video.